June 15th, 1215. In a meadow called Runnymede beside the River Thames, history is about to pivot on its axis. King John of England, one of the most despised monarchs who ever lived, is surrounded by 40 armed barons who've had enough. They're not just angry about taxes or land disputes, they're here to do something that's never been done before: force a king to admit he's not above the law. This isn't just a medieval power struggle. This is the moment when the idea was born that governments must have limits, that rulers must follow rules, and that people have rights that can't be taken away. King John earned his nickname John Lackland because he lost almost everything his family had built. By 1215, he'd lost most of England's territories in France, been excommunicated by the Pope, and coaxed his nobles into rebellion. But John wasn't just a failure, he was ruthless. He imprisoned nobles without trial, seized their property at will, and executed anyone who opposed him. When he wanted something, he simply took it. After all, he was the king. Who could stop him? The answer came from an unexpected source: his own nobles. These weren't Democrats or freedom fighters. They were feudal lords who just wanted John to follow the old rules. But sometimes revolution begins with people simply saying, "Enough." By May 1215, the barons had taken London itself. King John retreated to Windsor Castle, but he was trapped. Fight a civil war he couldn't win or negotiate with rebels who held all the cards. On June 10th, the two sides agreed to meet at Runnymede, neutral ground between the royal fortress and the rebel stronghold. For 5 days, they hammered out terms that would shake the foundations of monarchy itself. The document they created was called Magna Carta, the Great Charter, and it contained ideas so radical they still govern our lives today. No free man shall be arrested or imprisoned or dispossessed or outlawed or exiled except by the lawful judgment of his peers or by the law of the land. Think about those words. For the first time in history, a ruler was admitting that there were some things even kings couldn't do. The charter promised that the church would be free, that justice couldn't be sold or delayed, and that taxes required consent. Most revolutionary of all, if the king broke these promises, the barons had the right to rebel against him. On June 15th, 1215, with no other choice, King John pressed his royal seal into warm wax and made Magna Carta law. At that moment, the divine right of kings cracked forever. John had no intention of keeping his promises, and within weeks, he was asking the Pope to annul the charter. Civil war erupted, and John died the following year, probably from dysentery. Here's the beautiful irony. Magna Carta survived the king who signed it. His son reissued it. Future kings confirmed it. And slowly, these limits on royal power became the foundation of English law. More than that, when American colonists wanted to justify their revolution, they pointed to Magna Carta. When the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution, they built on its principles. When people anywhere fight tyranny, they invoke its spirit. Today, 4 original copies of that 1215 document still exist. You can see them in Lincoln Cathedral, Salisbury Cathedral, and the British Library. But the real copies are all around us. Every time a court requires evidence before conviction, that's Magna Carta. Every time Congress votes on taxes, that's Magna Carta. Every time someone says, "You can't just do that, there are rules," that's the echo of June 15th, 1215. The most powerful idea in human history isn't complicated. Nobody, not kings, not presidents, not anyone, is above the law. And that idea was born in a meadow beside the Thames, when 40 brave souls decided they'd rather risk everything than live without limits on power. 800 years later, we're still fighting the same fight. Every generation has to choose between freedom and tyranny, between the rule of law and the rule of force. The next time someone tells you that one person can't change the world, remember Runnymede. remember that the rights you exercise every day exist because some medieval nobles decided to stand up to a tyrant. What tyranny are you willing to challenge? What freedoms are you willing to defend? Share your thoughts in the comments, because the conversation about liberty that began on June 15, 1215, is far from over. Tomorrow, I'll share another story about ordinary people who refuse to accept injustice and change the course of history. You'll discover how one moment of moral courage created ripples that are still spreading today. If this story of courage conquering tyranny inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe to History Sparks. Because in a world where freedom isn't guaranteed, remembering how we got our rights is the first step to keeping them. Remember, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and it all started in a meadow on June 15, 1215.